Hey folks, this is Jacob Rhodes with TrueTrac, and what I'd like to cover in this video is how to trim the zero clearance block and the anti-chip strip for doing your 90-degree cuts. The 45-degree side, or the side on the opposite edge of the track, the narrow side, we'll cover whenever we start talking specifically about bevel cutting. But basically, I've already got a saw set up here. It's the DW364. It's a front plunging DeWalt 7 1/4 corded saw. And basically, what makes this unique is that it is a front plunge. It doesn't plunge in the back. So I kind of wanted to cover this one just to show you that this is one of the ones you can throw on there without any problem. Now, I've already got the adapter plate on there. I've already got the zero clearance block on there. The ZCB goes to the brass inserts. The brass inserts are not meant for mounting your saw, okay? There are 4 brass inserts, left-bladed and right-bladed saws. This is a right-bladed saw, so in this case we put it to this side. If this was a left-bladed saw, it would go to the other side. You want to make sure that the ZCB is to the front of your saw blade, regardless of which one it is. That's why there's 2 sets of holes. Magically, it does fit in the center, just the way the spacing worked out. Don't put it in the center of the blade, it doesn't do anything there. Okay? So, front leading edge of your blade, make sure that's covered by the ZCB. The first thing that we're going to do is we will do a plunge cut into the ZCB, and to facilitate that, what you do is you take your track. I've got a 3/4 inch thick piece of scrap lumber here. It's just a piece of plywood that we cut off of something some time ago. And you want to take your anti-chip strip and you want to slide it, I don't know, 12 or 15 inches out of the track, so there's a bare spot right here, okay? Then you just set that down onto your scrap lumber. You bring your saw over and you place it into that bare spot. And the reason we do that is now everything's supported the exact same way that it would be during a cut. You got the ZCB on the workpiece, you got the track holding the saw, and now all you have to do is loosen up the knob, plunge it down with it at full RPM, and you've trimmed your ZCB. So, I'm going to move another camera over here, reset everything so you can actually see what's happening. And once we get that done, we'll kind of reset everything, and we'll talk about doing the actual anti-chip strip. Okay? So I'll be quiet, we'll make some cuts. Alright folks, so now we've got the zero clearance block appropriately trimmed, and the next step is going to be doing the anti-chip strip that's on the track. So in doing the anti-chip strip after you do the ZCB, there will be interference between the two, so the ZCB will have to overlap on top of the anti-chip strip. Once you trim it, everything's going to be good to go in that case. And that down pressure again just helps the anti-chip strip from lifting and chipping out and causing issues along those lines. So we're going to do a really shallow depth of cut. You barely just want to score the wood underneath the anti-chip strip, and then you still want to leave a bare section at the beginning of your track, but it doesn't have to be quite this long. It can be about 8 inches. About that far there, and what that does is that gives you a nice stable area here at the beginning to basically set your saw, get everything to actually function properly here. It gives you an area here that you can set your saw, right? So again, right there you can actually see when we slide it forward, it wants to hit. So that's the ZCB and the anti-chip strip. Just lift the front of your saw a little bit, set it right on top of it, you're going to be good to go. I've already got the depth of the cut here set, but I am going to move the camera back over, that way you can actually see what we're going to be doing. And what we're going to do is we're going to basically start trimming it, and we have a section down here that's unsupported, so you don't want to trim that without it being supported. So we'll go up into about here, we'll stop, we'll reset the anti-chip strip, and then we'll finish out making the cut. Alright, so move the camera, shut up, and we'll make some more chips. All right, folks, and with that, you've got your anti-chip strip trimmed to match your saw and your blade. Now, you should have about a 1/16 of an inch that it took off, plus, minus, kind of around that range there. And this is really one of the keys to our system, because by trimming this after you've got your saw set up, you're basically accounting for any variation that you might have had whenever you set your saw up. This gives you a little bit of flexibility. That way you don't have to have everything exactly where it needs to be. If you're in a little bit, if you're out a little bit, it doesn't really matter, because once you trim this, it shows you right where your saw blade is going to go. So the only thing you really got to concern yourself with as far as, precise, is trying to make sure it's parallel. And even when you're talking about parallelism, there's only two ways that you're going to mess up. It's either going to have the front of the blade towed in towards the track to where the front cutting edge is closer to it, or it's going to be towed out. And really the only time that you're ever going to notice it is whenever the blade is towed out away from the track and you don't follow through all the way on your cut. For example, if you get to the end of this particular piece and your blade stops here to where the back edge of your blade isn't all the way through, but the front edge did make the cut. If you're towed out away from the track, then you'll end up with basically a wing or a flare towards the end. Now, if you go all the way through the cut to where the back of the blade cleans it up, then you'll never notice it. But for most of us, we just go until the front edge cuts through it. If you're towed in, the front edge is making the cut anyway, and the back edge really doesn't do anything. So you really won't notice any of your variation if you've got it towed in. Towing it in is also not a bad thing. It mimics what you do on a table saw with your table saw fence by having the front leading edge be a little bit closer than the trailing edge. It makes it kind of nice because there's a little bit of leeway in the system. So that is how you do your ZCB. That's how you trim your anti-chip strip. Now this other side that we've got on the track is for doing your 45-degree bevel cuts, and we'll cover trimming that in the bevel cutting video that we have. And basically the reason that we kind of keep that separate is that some people never will ever do a 45-degree bevel cut with their track saw system. And if you never have a project that comes up that needs a 45-degree cut, don't worry about trimming it, because then you've got an integrated spare. So if you ever change blades to a different blade thickness, or you change and get a different kind of saw because yours burns out, or you just get a better one. I mean, those are all options you've got as you grow with the system. And by having that anti-chip strip there, it's an integrated spare unless you do your 45 degrees. Now, if you guys got questions, you know how to get a hold of us. That's what we're here for, right? We like to make sure you're taken care of. Again, my name's Jacob Rhodes. This is TrueTrac. That's how you trim your anti-chip strips. Have a good day.